Welcome back, everybody. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. I am bringing to you the debut of another sewing machine that I have given a full overhaul and restoration to, and it is now ready for a new owner. I'm going to be posting this on to Kijiji. Now, you all may have seen, or you may or may not have seen, the video I made of this machine when I first got it. I've started doing videos of machines when I get them, if I think they're particularly noteworthy or special. And you might think, well, what's so special about a Kenmore heavy-duty sewing machine? It was made in Japan. The Japanese were making really good quality machines by the 1950s. And of course, it borrows some very smart design features. It has the same Singer Class 15 bobbin and shuttle system, and it uses Class 15 bobbins, one of the most universal bobbins in the world. And it has running gear on the inside that copied from the Necchi, the great Italian machines. And I believe I also talked about the fact that this machine has, in its oiling points, those little they're spring-loaded caps that keep out the dust. That was a nice touch that the Italians had put onto their machines, and the Japanese copied them too. Keep in mind that the patents on a lot of these machines, the Singers and Neckis, had expired. So the Japanese would take them, and sometimes they actually improved on them. But the thing I was kind of going on and on about when I first showed this machine, when I first got it, rescued it, as I like to say, is the side plate. Now, I normally don't talk a lot about side plates. Side plates will either swing open or they attach with a set screw. It's a very simple, you turn the set screw and you pull it up and off it comes. In fact, it's remarkable for the thickness. This plate, this side plate, I kid you not, it has to be just under 1/4 of an inch thick. I mean, it's heavy and beefy. I've never really seen one that thick. Most customers who would have bought this machine in 1957, I know the exact year and I'll explain why in a moment, they may not have even noticed this. But what they might have noticed, and hopefully the salesperson at Sears would have shown it to them, was the incredible machining detail of the side plate. And I'm going to turn the camera and let you guys see that, and I'll explain my own theory as to why they took such great effort and I think expense to make a fancy side plate. Okay, so looking at it from the left side, of course, this is the side plate. And again, I was just gushing all over this thing when I first got it. When you've seen as many sewing machines as I have, it's easy to sort of think, well, okay, it's another sewing machine, it's great, but you can get used to the same models. And this one was different. Now, this would have been made by one of the many, I say many, a handful of companies in Japan who were looking for business. And this side plate has, I need a little pointer. Don't have a pointer. I'll use my finger. It has an incredible level of detail. The first thing, as I mentioned, it is very heavy, and it's the thickest side plate I've ever seen. And then there are two sort of rim areas here that come down the side, and this is all very three-dimensional. You see these little, I think they're sort of abstract-looking little needle forms that sort of they sort of stick out in relief. But then this area here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little decorative pieces. But the thing that made it most distinctive was this. Now, when I first put my finger on this, I thought, God, that feels like almost like a screen. Apparently, the manufacturer had taken this and they had etched the steel. This is made of steel. They etched it and they did it in a crosshatch pattern. And even though it's a solid piece, it almost feels like, again, like you're rubbing your finger on a fine mesh screen. And this had to have cost a lot of money to machine. Now, the next question I had, well, why though? Why would they do this? Well, back in the day, in the 1950s, companies like Sears and other catalog companies like Montgomery Ward, JCPenney, these companies had a lot of buying power. They were very strong retailers back then. And, you know, Sears would basically go looking for contracts, and they would go to these conventions where all kinds of new products were on display. And the companies, such as the Japanese companies that made these machines, were all competing with each other. And they wanted to get the business from Sears. Unlike today, Sears was Sears bought a lot of stuff, and if you got a contract with Sears, you know, it was a big plum to get that. You were looking at making a lot of money. And Sears was very picky though. And so you had to go the extra mile to impress them. So someone at this company said, hey, let's give a feature that no one else has. And it has to be this. This is not functional, by the way. It's just, you know, it's a cover for the side. So I don't want to suggest that it somehow performs differently. But it doesn't need to, because this is a beast of a little machine. On the listing on Kijiji, you will see I have a long list of things I did to the machine to basically recondition it and get it ready for a new life of service. It has beautiful, this sort of a metallic turquoise color. And of course, it does also have the, let's see if I can zoom in on it, the Kenmore crest. And I mentioned this in the other video, you know, and it's like, oh, look at this, you know, we've got the Kenmore crest. And so, and the decals are beautiful, you know, beautiful shape. This is one of those machines, and I've mentioned them to you before. I'll give you a little, while we're on the zoom here, I'll give you a little close-up of this beautiful side plate. Sorry to go on about the side plate, but it's just, it's very unusual. I don't see anything like that very often. But anyway, this machine, as I said, I went through the entire machine and basically got it ready. It's one of those few machines I've come across, not unlike the Singer Centennial that I just did a video on, that I've gotten to a point where I can tell if a machine was used a lot or not. And if it had been, it's okay, because they're so tough, they don't wear out per se. Unless someone intentionally breaks these things, they don't wear out in the way an industrial machine can. But anyway, this machine literally did not have, I'll lift it up and let you guys see the underside. Normally, I have to do quite a bit of cleaning for these machines. I have to dust them off and get some of the old lubricants off, and that's not a problem. And I went to do that, and there was none. This machine had so little dust, lint or old oil, that it really looked like something that had been either purchased by someone who thought they wanted to sew, or maybe it was a gift, and that often would happen. Well, not every person thought sewing was all that, even in the 1950s. And I can sometimes tell that the machine would have been kept. They took very good care of it, and it basically was put into a carrying case. And of course, I have the original carrying case for this machine, and it is, I'll show that to you in just a moment. But anyway, that's a little bit of the backdrop of, you know, what I came into with the machine. Now, the machine came with a carrying case. I currently installed it in one of my tables because I wanted to, whenever I overhaul a machine, I'm either going to take it out of the case and put it on my bench, or I'll actually put it into a sewing table because I find it just easier for me to do the overhaul work. If I have it in a case, it's a little harder for me to negotiate wherever I need to get on the machine, and I don't want it to flop around or anything. So, but anyway, that's the reason you see it in a table. This machine can go in any of the Singer tables. The Japanese were very smart. They knew that Singer was the most popular brand, and so they wanted their machines to fit into Singer tables so that if someone had a Singer and already had a table, they certainly weren't going to buy a new table. They were crazy expensive, as I have mentioned to you all in other videos. And so the Japanese said, okay, fine, we'll make sure that the base of our machine will fit into a Singer table. A lot of manufacturers did this, even the Europeans did this. Necke and Pfaff, they all did it. Now, one of the things that I cannot always ascertain is the pricing of sewing machines, right? So I just wanted to give you guys a little insight to something I discovered. I went online trying to identify this model. This model was sold in Canada, and it is a C877.50. And it was sold through Simpsons or Simpsons Sears, that combination of retail distribution. Now, just to further explain what I discovered about this thing, I was looking online and I really wanted to find out, maybe, how it was marketed. And I just got very lucky. It was just dumb luck. And I found that someone had taken at least some of the catalogs from Sears-Simpsons back in the 50s. And they scanned some of the pages. Now, they didn't scan all of them. I mean, there were a lot of catalogs over the years, and if you've ever seen an old catalog, you know, they're really giant books. Think of it as a paper version of Amazon back in the day. But anyway, the reason I know this is because I happened to, when I was Googling the model number, I found a link to, basically it was a PDF of a Sears-Simpsons catalog from 1957. And sure enough, I saw this machine. I couldn't believe it. So I'm going to move the camera and I'll show you what I came across. Okay, so over to your left, you will see the carry case for this machine. And I'm going to show you all, this is, and I hope this will pick up onto the camera for you. This is I printed it out. This is 1957 Sears-Simpsons. Now, if you look closely, you will see Deluxe Kenmore Portable, and it was marketed as a portable machine. And of course, it weighs what 2 bowling balls do. It's all steel. It is a beast of a machine. Now, next to it was an even fancier model that had all kinds of decorative stitches, because you have a little hatch in the top here that you could put cams in and so forth. But a lot of people did not want to pay that much for that, and people are creatures of tradition when it comes to sewing. But I'm going to pull this in a little closer. I want you to see the very machine, and right behind it, notice you'll see the case for it, and there it is. And it's sold for a whopping $92. Now, notice that was with the case that did not include a table. If you wanted a table, they were available. And take a look, guys. You'll see there's one, the smaller table here in the blonde color. Blonde tables were a popular trend back then. And they even show a picture. Hey, look at this. You can see the machine I'm talking to you about. And they even show it in a table. Hey, look what your machine could be like if you had a sewing table. And so you can see this, but look at the prices, right? I see prices on these tables, $109, $104. They were just slightly more expensive than the machine was. And again, that was not with the machine, that was just the table. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my little calculator that I've shown you all before. You can look at a consumer price index calculator, and it will tell you what dollars in a prior year are today after you account for inflation. So let's do that right quick, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, guys, so you can just Google CPI calculator, which stands for Consumer Price Index. Banks have this, governments have this. I'll go to the U.S. inflation calculator. A lot of government agencies have this. This one is a .com, but you can use, and it will go all the way back to 1913. And I've done this before. I think I did it. I'm trying to remember which one I did it for one of the tables that I had. I was talking in one of my table videos. So, inflation calculator. I think I need to zoom in a little bit more and make sure this is actually going to show up for you guys. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so it says if in, here's the year, I purchased an item for blank amount, then in, we'll just say 2019, this year, the same item would cost, right? So let's go in here, we'll put 1957, and I know the exact year. Sometimes you have to guess, but in this case, this was a 1957 Sears-Simpsons catalog, and I know that, so I can be pretty exact here. And it says the item would have been purchased for $92.95 with, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this to you all. Look at this. It says, let's see, $92.95, $5 down, and $5 a month. Now you know how Sears built an empire. I think they made more money on their financing than they did on their items. But for a lot of people starting out in life, young couples, for example, this was the only place they could start their credit. They would get credit at Sears when they couldn't get anywhere else, just because they were new, not because they had bad credit. Now let's make sure our zoomer is working here because, okay, so $92.95. Okay, and then in the year 2019, so I'm just going to hit calculate. Make sure I've got a good focus there for you. Look at that, guys. The same item today would cost $848.69. Now, when you're trying to calculate inflation, there are always going to be variations in certain product categories, some more than others, but this is a good general ballpark. Now, it's important to note that this is only with the carrying case. So let's go back to our catalog. We are looking at, maybe I'm looking in the wish book, as they used to be called. People used to call. Oh, look at this, guys! You can even see the prices of some of the accessories. You could get a buttonhole maker, 19-piece attachment set, $5, or the buttonhole maker, $10 basically. I know that doesn't seem like a lot to us today. And look at this, they were including it with any sewing machine on this page. Now, that may not, like, oh, big deal, you're saving me $15. Remember, we're talking about $1957. So if I go in here and I put, what is that total value of $14.90? What was that? That was like $136. Look at that. It was $136 retail for a buttonhole maker and some sewing feet. Gosh, it's like buying a new set of Bernina accessories today. So again, I do this because I want you guys to see just how expensive these items were. Now, let's go in and we're going to go back. I'm having to resume here, guys, because the camera's getting confused. But let's take a look at the tables. Notice it says $104.95 for this one. Let's see, it's called the Lowboy Walnut Console, and then the other one is $109.95. Let's suppose that you maybe you wanted to go for it. You went for the blonde one because that was like the hip color in 1957. And let's see. Oh, look at this, guys. On one of the machines here, they had a special offer. Sorry, I'm digressing, but I couldn't help myself. It was $189.95 for... What did you get here? Sorry for the floating. Oh, that was for the decorative stitch zigzag model, right? And notice it was $164 if you paid cash. So again, people were not using credit cards back then, but they were establishing credit accounts with different retailers. And some of us still do this today with department store or store brand credit cards and so forth. Anyway, let's put in the table. Never mind the accessories, those are included in this special. Let's put in the table cost. Let's go for it. $109.95. Calculate that. Wow. So the table, you guys have heard me go on about these sewing tables that no one seems to care about. $1,003.91. If you add in the $848, you're looking at $1,900, okay? So what does that mean? What that means is that if you were shopping in a Sears store in 1957 and you wanted a table and this new sewing machine, you were going to be expected to pay close to $2,000, guys. And look at the quality. It's, how many years is this now? You know, it's 60 years later and it is still ready to go. It's not worn out. And, but like I say, $2,000 was a lot of money. $1,000 would be a lot of money. And these are for machines that don't have computers. They don't have all the LCD screens and stuff. But that's why they are still here. That's why they are heirloom quality. So again, I seldom get information like this. It's very hard to find specific prices for specific items. But this exact machine, I loved it. Like I say, I'll include this little paper, this little printout for whoever buys this machine. I just think it's a cool part of the history of it. And it takes low shank feet, so I've got a couple of feet I can put with this. But you can find them all day long. They're very inexpensive. You can find class 15 bobbins. I'll include some here. But I just couldn't help myself but show you guys the just the wonderful provenance and history of a machine. And just to show you, yes, they don't make things like they used to anymore, and that's because they were expensive. So I'm going to be listing this, and whatever I list it for will be a lot less money than $848, I can tell you that. But anyway, this machine will include the case, and like I say, you can find tables for this. I have tables you can purchase if you want to. They're not expensive. About half my customers want machines in cases, and the other half want tables. So if this machine had come in a table, I would just include it. It's I include whatever came with the machine, and then I try to keep extra cases and tables because some of my customers don't know until they get here, and they say, "Hey, you know, I wish I had a table." And anyway, the primary thing to talk about today is the machine, and it is now time to finally stop talking about the history of it and start showing how it runs. Okay, guys, I've got a couple of fabric samples I'll demonstrate for you here. I have a brand new Oregon brand size 16 needle. Using the 16 today because although it may not be the case for you, many of my customers who get these types of machines from the 50s really like to do sometimes medium to heavyweight fabrics, and this machine will do it. It has a 1 amp motor, and I just wanted to demonstrate this for you. Now this is a lightweight cotton fabric from a shirt, and so I took, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just basically folded it over a few times, and now let's change the angle a little bit here. And I think I've got 8 layers. Again, 8 layers of a lightweight cotton. That is nothing for one of these. And I'll just do a little sewing demonstration for you here. And I can sew slowly, or I can speed it up. I can go backwards and do back tacking. This machine is a very simple machine to learn to use. It essentially has its stitch length control right here. This wonderful beefy knob, and then of course your back tacking is right here on this lever. So one of the more simple machines to learn, but even if you're an experienced sewer, you may appreciate that. You can just sit down and go to it. If you're new to sewing, guys, I can show you how to use this. It's unbelievably simple, so no reason to be shy about that, and I can let you practice. Those of you who are experienced sewers, I can literally point and you'll be able to sit down and start sewing right away. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to show off how it sews quickly. Now, some of the earlier machines from the 30s were not this fast, but let's see here. I'm going to come over and then I'll do a short stitch for you. Let's change our stitch length to show you the versatility of the machine. I can go faster, but if I go so fast you won't be able to see anything but a blur, so I'll do it like this. And it is laser straight. It really is. Whenever I finish overhauling these machines and I start looking at them, or looking at how they sew, I begin to appreciate why they were so expensive when they were new. Okay, let's take a look here. And let's see if this will focus in for you guys. We've got the straight stitches there, really solid. Here's my little fine stitch. I'll show you the really short stitch. You can really tell the measure of a sewing machine when you get those really narrow stitches, and they just look like a laser line. Now, let's see. That fabric has a lot of lines in it. It's sort of from a man's Oxford shirt, so the stitches don't show up as well. So I got this is a remnant of a very heavy. This is the real Levi's denim, not the newer thin stuff. Very heavy and dense Levi's jeans denim, and I've got, of course, the 2 sides, and this is the end of a pocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew across this, and of course, you know, regular denim is pretty dense, and then we've got the multiple folds here, and I want you to see how the machine handles it. I predict it will handle like a trooper. I don't have a jeans needle in here. That would be my preference if I was going to sew a lot of this, but for demonstration purposes, this size 16 should be okay. I'm not really worried. Anytime you sew with a dense fabric, of course, you really want to, I would start with my needle down. I don't think this machine would demand it of me because it is so strong, but it's just a little habitual practice that I engage in. Let's see, I really want these seams to show up on the camera, so I'm going to go back to the long stitch. Take it out of reverse. And you'll notice there's no difference, right? I'm sewing at the same speed whether I'm at the fabric itself or all these many folds. And we'll take a look and I'll show you why vintage machines are really great at keeping their tension and not being fussy about it. Actually, let's pull it up because I'm going to fold it over in a moment. We'll put it through an even tougher pace. Now, let's see, guys. Let's make sure she's focused in here. All right. So you're going to see when I started sewing, you'll see I am really wanting to make sure this is going to focus here, and I can't tell. There we go. You see where I started sewing? These are the long straight stitches. I start coming across, and again, I'm coming across a jeans denim fold, and the tension stays true, right? The machine doesn't have any hiccups or anything. Now let's see what the other side looks like. You know, the back side of the denim, I know the pattern there makes it a little tough, but you'll notice that the stitch tension is beautiful. And just to show it's not a one-hit wonder here, I'm going to take it, and I'll take this part of a jeans pocket, and we're just going to fold it over like this, okay? And I'm going to fold it like that, and then we're going to sew through it. So the first line, the line I already sewed is right here, right there. So I'll come right under it so we can remember which one is which. So I can remember which one is which. Okay, let's put her right under here and get my thread tails pulled back. Actually, I'll start coming in the same fabric side that I did before. Now, of course, up top you have a presser bar adjuster. I'm going to leave it here, but sometimes you may want to adjust that if you start changing the weight and the thickness, if it starts to be a really big change for you. So again, I'll start with my needle down. And there you go, guys. I mean, it just went through it. And I sewed more slowly so you could see it will sew more quickly, but again, you don't want to get your needle in trouble. Needles can break no matter what machine you've got if you go too quickly. But I didn't bat an eye on this one. Let's see. Let's get her zoomed in. There you go, guys. So now notice the top line of stitches here is the one I just did with it folded. Now look how it goes across the seam of the pocket. Any good machine, not just this one, should do that for you. Those of you who have new plastic machines, you've been let down many times. And that's because they're poorly made. They know how to make good machines, but they don't. They want to sell them at $99, $159. Even today, if you were to drop $1,000 on a sewing machine, that machine only has a limited lifespan. And it's really a shame because new machines have some great features, but I think all of you know that I have a bias toward vintage machines after all this time. So anyway, there it is, folks, the Kenmore. And it has that special decorative touch. But whether you care about the decorative touches on the side plate or not, it is a fantastic machine. If you were to rate sewing machines like cars in mileage, this is a low miles version because whoever had it was not that fond of sewing. Not everyone was. And by the way, you can drop your feed dogs if you want to do some free motion work. If you are interested in the machine or would like to set up a time to come and test it out, feel free to reach me on the Kijiji listing, and I'd be happy to do so. And you can also check the listing for an exhaustive list of areas that I performed maintenance on the machine. Nothing was broken on it, but it just, like a real car, needs maintenance. And that way, when you purchase it, you should be able to take it home and use it. So anyway, thanks again, guys. I appreciate it. More videos to come, of course. I've been on a roll here lately, and if you have one of these machines or something like it, share your comments down below, and we will see you in the next video.